Hello and welcome to Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Poz, and with me, of course, as always, the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, and one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great today. Thank you very much. Anytime I get to wake up in Knoxville, as you know, I'm always doing great.
Now, WWE was just in Knoxville. You missed
Mm.
it. You missed your opportunity on SmackDown.
Well,
Glenn was there and the whole
yes.
shebang, but you're too
Yeah.
busy.
No, I was too busy. As a matter of fact, this is the last week for our class, and we graduate on Saturday, September 29th. But we really didn't miss it because we had a special guest visit us on Thursday. She flew in early, got to catch the advanced class and our beginners class. She stayed well past 10 o'clock that night and had to get up and go to SmackDown the next day. Natalia came by to visit and gave a hell of a speech, gave a hell of an education to the guys who showed up. And so I didn't miss a whole lot of SmackDown. I might have missed the actual event, but we had guys coming in ready to train, ready to get in the ring and do what they have to do. They only have 1 week left before they graduate, and a lot of guys are excited about that. And at the same time, it's bittersweet because they don't get to show up every day and sweat their ass off at JPWA. So. And we're about to get cold here too in Knoxville, so it's going to be a whole different turn of events. But no, I don't think I don't think I missed out by not going to the actual event. I think Natty coming to JPWA and offering her words of wisdom and advice fit us just fine.
It's pretty awesome though. Like if you're a student there, you're just going along training. Obviously, on training under you is cool, but then it's like who else can show up? Who's gonna come in? Who's gonna be a guest? You know what I mean? Like that's pretty cool. And all of a sudden, Natty shows up. Heath Slater the other week, who we were talking to, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
Natty just pops in.
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's really cool. If I was training, had the opportunity with schools around back in the day when I first started, I would be in heaven. Be quite honest with you, because we've had Natty, we've had Sasha, we've had Bailey, Sheamus, Edge, Goldust, oh my God, Sin, Bodie, Undertaker. Yeah, by all means, we've had a lot of great people show up, and that is a cool thing. Yeah,
that guy Bruce, whoever he is. Yeah,
sure. So we're very, very fortunate, and I'm glad the guys were here, got to hear it, and got to see it. And like you're right, you never know who's going to show up, and we've been extremely fortunate and lucky for the last going on 3 years. So
pretty cool. And then you mentioned the other week too, obviously co-owner Glenn Jacobs, but Kane showed up last week, or I think it was the week before he was there. I mean, it's pretty cool.
No, yeah, he's stopped by. He's a guy. He just he's got a lot on his plate right now. Being Knox County mayor, he has to make that his first priority, no doubt. But he still loves the business. He still loves coming in, checking out young talent that has potential or has the passion, has the love for the business. Because I think no matter who you are, and especially someone like Glenn who has the iconic status, Hall of Famer, one of the top. He has to be in the top 5 superstars ever produced by WWE. I don't know that anybody else could have pulled off Kane other than Glenn Jacobs. So, we're very, very fortunate, and I don't take that for granted one bit. It was very, very nice of Natty to stop by and show an interest. She's always been a friend of mine and a friend of JPWA's, and She's one of those people that have been in my corner, and I've been in hers since day one. So it's always cool to not just have guys from the roster stop by, but people from the roster who really want to stop by and really want to offer some opinions and advice to anybody who's willing to listen and ask really good questions.
Now, does she get in the ring with all the trainees, or what, is she?
She has before. This week, she offered some really great advice, but it was SmackDown, and I told her, do not get hurt. And we didn't take any precautions because that's all I would need to have happen is one twist of the ankle or snap of the fibula, and we're done. So, yeah, she had flown in early just to come visit, and she was ready. She was willing to get in the ring. I just made a call there that maybe this isn't a good idea. Let's wait. Let's wait a little bit till these guys are a little more on their way. 12 weeks of training can give you a foundation, but the night before TV, I wasn't feeling all that willing to say, hey, get on in here. I can guarantee you won't get hurt. So.
Yeah, too risky. You can't risk it. But that's awesome for the students. They could pick her brain. She could tell them Q&A style. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Yeah, and she basically, and not when I say basically, I mean she covered everything we cover in there, and is saying the same thing she's heard throughout her training and then some. And she and TJ are training some people down in Florida. They're actually not really training. They're training people, but it's not like a school. It's a very select few who get to come to the dungeon. I don't know if they call it the Dungeon South or whatever, but it's a very special invite only place, and she applies the same stuff that she learned, and spread it amongst the JPWA crew. And it's always good when somebody comes in and they reinforce what you're doing and explaining it in not so many words exactly, but in so many words to a point that there's no mistaking that we feel the same way about the basics and fundamentals, never going out of style. And there is a method to the madness, even the uncanny and unpredictable stuff. So it's great all the way around. And I couldn't be more happy. And I'm sure Glenn is too, when the guys stop by. So it's very, very cool.
Yeah. I mean, she can hammer stuff home, plus a success story. I mean, it's a pretty damn good one too. Even currently being a tag champion of the women's division there. So amazing to kind of just have her come in and just share some knowledge or just shoot the shit.
Right. And she is always a positive influence, and always has been a positive influence all the way through developmental and her career. She understands the business. She's been around it. And she's been disappointed by it, but that just made her stronger. And she explained people have to have tough skin to get in this, to be able to make it, my God, even a month. You're dealing with people all the time. While the business has changed a lot, it's stayed the same a lot too. And it's still showbiz. It's still full of people who are contagiously negative and infective, and they'll do anything in the world to try and bring you down because they want to be down. And that's life. But as long as you understand what you're up against and what you're dealing with, you can learn how to combat it, and you can learn how to put it out of your head and just ignore the negativity and the people who aren't out to help you. There's a lot of people out there who will, but there's a lot of people out there who won't and want to see you sink. And some people think it's not only funny, but they like it. They enjoy spreading doom and gloom and negativity. And I can't live with that, and I won't live with that. And I don't think anybody else should either, especially wrestling is hard enough as it is. So why not learn how to do it right and help each other out? Unfortunately, that's better said than done, because it's very competitive, and you're going to have rivals everywhere you turn. So you got to learn how to manipulate and maneuver in any entertainment business. So if you can keep your head about you and still be a good person, more power to you. And I see that with Natty Neidhart, and I see that with guys like Heath Slater and Sheamus, and again, some of the other guys who have stopped by. Mark Henry's another guy who has a great attitude. He loves professional wrestling. He loves the wrestling business. So I think for anybody who's looking to get into wrestling or any kind of entertainment business, you've got to know the lay of the land. You've got to know what you're getting into, and some do, and some don't. And those who do will, and those who don't probably won't ever do it, because it does take a drive. It does take determination. It does take being smart enough to understand what you have to do to swim in these murky waters sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very true. I was just curious. Did you see Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell? Did you happen to catch that episode?
I happened to catch it last night. Yeah.
Nice.
Sure did.
What'd you think?
Well, here's what I think. First of all, I understand the sensationalism and the temperament of the show. I mean, and it is interesting. It's interesting to fans and the boys alike. I do. At the same time, when you put everything out on display, there's no mystery anymore. And I'm not saying I'm not defending the plane ride from hell. I'm just saying, it's a tough spot to be in when you're, what is it, 15, 20 years later? How many years is this?
20, yeah.
20 years later. And you're bringing up all these incidents and not doubting or saying they did or didn't happen. That's not at all the case, because as we all, or most of us know who've been around wrestling for a while, know that there's a lot of insanity that went on the road. But I just don't know the upside. I don't understand what good it's really going to do anybody. And if there's even meant to do any good, I don't know. But to bring up things that happened 20 years ago, it's interesting. It's salacious, and people love to hear about the dirt and all the behind the scenes stuff. And that's fine. But for me, I feel that bringing it up now is the only upside to it is the entertainment factor and the ratings factor, which is their job, I guess. But I read, I think today or this morning, it was the lowest rated episode so far. But then again, that'll get people talking about it and all the cancel culture, and they'll go watch it. So,
right.
I mean, I thought it was well done, the production part of it. I thought bringing this stuff back to light, what is the goal there? We know Rick is a part of it. We know, again, I say we, the guys who have been around the business for a while understand and have seen the evolution and seen the changes. Some good, some not so good. So there's a great possibility all that stuff that they were talking about did happen. And I wasn't on the plane, so I can't speak. But as far as the show, as far as the production value, I thought it was put together well. It's just when I hear about these things being brought up again, I've got to wonder what the agenda is, if there is one. If there's not, great. But then what you're looking for is what you're going to get, I guess. And that's going to be a lot of people really analyzing and overanalyzing who weren't there, who don't have a clue. The circumstances, which it doesn't matter. Nobody should be abused or nobody should be intimidated. Nobody should be bullied. I don't agree with any of that. But there were some factual things I saw that were wrong. Vince and Linda weren't on the plane, and they said they were, right? I think so, because Coachman came back and said he wanted to clear something up, that Vince and Linda were not on that plane. And I don't believe they were either. With all the stuff going on, the guys certainly wouldn't have done that with Vince on the plane, because they would have been fired right there. So, I don't know what the overall purpose is, except put on a good show, good program, get ratings. That's all I really have to say about it. Yeah.
Interesting thing that was brought to my attention, kind of just because I knew a couple wrestlers that weren't interviewed for that show, but they were on the plane and they were telling me some details. So Dark Side of the Ring reached out to them. This is to me like, okay, they definitely had an agenda, possibly, if these guys are telling me the truth. I'm
Right.
not like a gossip guy or a dirt sheet guy. So like telling me this information would do no good for them to make it up. But who knows? They're working.
No.
They could be making it up. They told me that the team at Darkside were asking them questions about the plane ride. The Lesnar story, true. Kurt Hennig, they got in a fight. The emergency exit, that's true. They broke the seat, like that's true. Did they really cut the? Yes, he really cut his. Waltman did cut Michael Hayes, your best friend, his hair. Did JBL really get punched by Hayes? Yes, like they're going through it, and they're like, okay, what did you see from Ric Flair? I don't know. I was sitting at a different part of the plane. He was up further. Didn't see it, but like I'm sure he was crazy. Like, but what did you see from Flair? Like they kept I have nothing. Well, what about the stewardess? I got nothing. They're like, we can't use you. So they
Right.
had an agenda, according to these two guys. They had an agenda of they wanted them to talk about that specific issue. They're like, yeah, but we just told you we know everything else that happened. This, and this. They're like, no, we don't want that. I guess they got that covered from somebody else. They wanted more salacious stuff on Rick for whatever reason. So it does seem like a bit of an agenda from those guys, and I just think that it's interesting that they're pretending, oh, there's no agenda here. Every episode seems to have an agenda. Remember the Montreal Screwjob? The agenda was for some reason the Cornette Russo feud. It was like there's always some weird agenda in all these episodes. I've noticed.
Well, I don't know the guys. I saw the countdown with Jericho in a hotel 2 weeks ago, I guess, and they were going over each episode, and I thought, well, this does look interesting. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good season. But once again, the world's a whole different place, and I don't agree if that was going on back then on the plane, because that is pretty dangerous at 30,000 feet in the air, messing around and having Kurt play games like he was playing games. And I don't doubt that for a minute either. But again, this is 20 years ago. People's memories and people's ideas and what they remember and what they don't remember can change. I'm not talking about any stewardesses. I'm talking about the boys. I'm talking about anybody on the plane. Is going to have their own. It's going to be a different view from every guy on there. Pretty much the incidents they describe may be the same, but then they're going to add their own details that they remember. And again, I wasn't there, so I can't say yes or no. I can just say that certainly shouldn't happen back then, but it shouldn't happen today either, because it's a different culture and it's a different world, and you can't get away with that. So you shouldn't have got away with it back then, but for whatever reason, we find ourselves 20 years later. And like JR said, if you never ask me about this again, I'll be happy. God almighty, the Malice at the Palace. Have you had the chance to see that yet?
The Ron Artest?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now wait a minute. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you look at our test, and I'm looking at the whole team, and I'm saying, dude, I know those guys. I was in the locker room with all those guys all through the years. Ron Artest, you telling me that? So, that was a long time ago. There was a different culture, and at the same time, you have to have those kind of players in the game, those kind of people in the business, who are not necessarily screwed down overly tight. There might be a little looseness in there in that screw, and it's going to go off the hinges sometimes. And all it took was somebody throwing a drink, landing on our test, and it was like, here we go. And same thing with wrestling, man. You can't do that. You couldn't do it in basketball today. A lot heavier fines that come down. You can't do that in wrestling. You can't do that in anywhere. And you shouldn't have been done before either. But to bring it up now, and with the council culture we're in, doing this, people are going to jump on it. It could be what it is. Notoriety, don't know. But it's not to dismiss it, not to minimize it or anything like that. But there's a lot of private planes being flown out there, a lot of luxury jets out there, shuttling people back and forth. And I think they do it, yes, because it's luxurious, and you don't have to go through all the hassle, but also it's because you can do what you want. And I think it's always been that way. It's just sometimes it got out of hand. That's what I think.
I just find it really like interesting. Like, okay, they didn't want to hear from these guys because they wouldn't say that they saw something they didn't see. I just thought it was like, oh, that's kind of like, whoa, a little
Yeah.
alarming hearing that firsthand from one of the guys. Like, yeah, I was on the plane ride. Oh, did they interview for the episode? No, they didn't want to use me because I didn't say what they wanted me to say because
Yeah.
I would be lying. You know what I mean? Like, it was very odd to me. And I like Evan
Well,
and Jason. They're nice guys and stuff, but man, like that kind of puts a little different spin on it to me. It's like they seem like they might have a little bit of agenda going on here.
well, that too, and I don't know if it's their agenda or Vice agenda, and who knows. But once again, we know that good news doesn't always sell. So you want to hear some stuff, and you want to hear, especially about probably the most famous guy on the flight, or one of the most famous guys on the flight, Ric Flair. So,
Right.
Again, not being there, I can't attest to anything. I heard the stories just like everybody else. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But you're asking me what are the facts? Well, here are the facts. I wasn't on the plane, so I don't know. If I didn't see it, if I didn't hear it, then I can't tell you I saw it or heard it. So I guess I found enough people who said they did see it and hear it. So I mean, again, if everything they mentioned on the flight, those were unacceptable then during those times, and they're unacceptable now. So that's where we find ourselves.
And the fact that it did the lowest ratings, it's even worse than the Nick Gage episode. So
Yeah. So I mean, but that will bring attention to it, I think, because people will make sure to let everybody know about it on every social media platform, and then you can go see it and make a determination for yourself. But and I'll leave it there because I might start going that I might step in a big pile of mud.
Yes.
Or shit. You never know.
Yes. Good point. You may pull Tommy Dreamer there. You may step into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and sometimes it's better to remain silent and be thought of a fool than speak up and remove all doubt. Just yes. Like I tried to stop myself a minute ago.
Yes. So as far as today's episode, wanted to kind of talk about Double J, Jeff Jarrett, your longtime close personal friend, as me and Gene used to love to say. Jeff Jarrett, you've known him for a very long time. Does that stretch all the way back to early 90s USWA, or is it earlier than that?
No, I believe it was early 90s USWA because Jeff had just been refereeing a couple years, and I came in, early 90s, and Eric Embry was booking. Came in, I think Lawler had the book for a little bit. And then Eric came in and took over, and Lawler took a vacation. So, I've known Jeff since the early 90s. He was one of those guys. I didn't really know when I got there back to Memphis, but I remember my first night or my first day coming back. I was at TV, and they announced Jeff Jarrett in a tag match. He was a Southern champion. Lawler just dropped the AWA title or the Continental title to Terry Funk, and I had a promo. And they didn't give us scripts. They just you're on the card Monday night. You're against whoever it was, and you go out and you plug your match. We had about a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it was. Terry Garvin and I went out and I said, "Where's your Southern champion? He's not here at TV today. I see he's signing for tag matches. Why don't you sign a singles match with me and I'll beat you," or something like that. And I told Lawler Terry Funk was from the real world champion. He's from Texas, and of course, Embry was about to start his Texas-Tennessee feud. He wanted to be from Texas. And he quickly found out that I wouldn't mind going and doing commentary in Dallas and call Eric Embry, say he was from Kentucky. And I don't think he wanted to hear that. And so I got to be on the Texas side, thank God. But that's where I met Jeff. And you could tell it. He was He had fire. He had drive. And, man, sometimes he's one of those guys that you can just get in the ring with and you don't really have to say anything. One of those guys that you knew could follow, and you could follow him, whatever he was doing. You didn't have to call every move you did. You felt it and you went with it. And if you had a good heel, good baby face, they could follow each other. And that's how I felt about Jeff. And Dundee even came to me one time and says, you and Jeff are having a really good match. It's kind of like me and Lawler. You just kind of click when you got in there. And I thought, yeah, that was exactly what it is. And Jeff was a natural. He was a natural, and he looked the part. From his wardrobe, gear, trunks, boots, robes, jackets, just to be a star. Look that part. And so, yeah, that we got along from day one. And it was always great getting in the ring with him because you didn't really have to think about it. Just went out there and listened and followed. So that was a lot of fun.
With Jeff, obviously, his dad, Jerry, legendary promoter, wrestler at one point, obviously, too. But did you ever think, like, okay, maybe he's in the spot because of his father, or you knew that it was like a Dustin Rhodes? Like, it didn't really matter who his dad was. He was so good anyway, he was going to break through.
Well, yeah, most of the time, I don't know about most of the time, but sometimes guys in the territory, when their fathers owned it or family had a history and lineage with it, they're going to get a lot of heat no matter what. And, there's a story about Jeff getting a new car with the gold hubcaps and Austin. Steve Austin was in the territory. I wasn't there for this, or Steve never told me this, but apparently, I heard Steve was looking at his check in the locker room. He got paid on Mondays or Saturdays, whatever it was. And supposedly Jeff walked in and, being a smart ass, says, it's not going to get any bigger. That kind of rubs Steve the wrong way, I guess. And, when you're first starting out and you come to a territory like Memphis, very cliquish, and I hate cliques, and I never was good at being in cliques, but somehow I had known people there and got along better there during that run than I had in my other previous runs in Memphis. And I finally understood it's a game. You don't have to like somebody, but you also don't have to tell them you don't like them. You can do business and be okay with them. But I knew Jeff had talent, and a lot of guys didn't care for him just because they were holding his father's sins against the son. And Jerry was known. It wasn't a really great time in Memphis. It was near the end. It was near the end of the territory days, and nobody was really making a lot of money. But Jeff always had, the nicer things, the finer things. And if he's part of the Jarrett empire or lineage, well, then it's not his fault. But he did have the talent. He could go out and work with anybody and have a hell of a match. So I have no grudges. I think there were a few people who probably thought he got a spot because of his dad, but I don't believe that to be the case. He actually held his own in every match I've ever seen him in.
Great worker. I feel like that kind of stuff is crazy. Even Dustin, I remember people back in the day say stuff like, "No, he's pretty damn good. He's the natural, literally." But with Jeff, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, he's a good worker. But what made you guys work so well together? Because there could be two good workers that don't work well together. How come you guys mesh so well?
I think it was just that style. He had that same style. He'd grown up on the Tennessee style, which is rough and tough and bloody and gimmicks and stuff like that. Well, I grew up in Texas. It was rough and tough and gimmicks and stuff like that too. So instead of a Texas death match, it'd be a Tennessee street fight. Or if we were in Texas, it'd be a Texas street fight or Texas death match. And I think it was just the fact that I was out as a heel to have a really great babyface to work with and put him over and have these great matches. So every time we went in, I understood if the heel doesn't sell for a babyface and vice versa, the match is going to suck. And Jeff, I think, had that same attitude. He was out for the match. He wasn't out to. It wasn't all about Jeff in his mind. He knew if he didn't sell, he knew if he didn't make the match great, then people were going to start really coming down on him. So Jeff enjoyed wrestling. I enjoyed wrestling. And when you get two people like that together who understand, if I'm going to nail you one time and you sell it, I don't have to hit you 4 more times. It's just one good one means so much more than 5 shitty ones. Whether it's a kick, punch, or whatever kind of strike. If you don't lay it in good each time, then it means nothing. But if you hit your opponent 5 times and they still don't sell, well, then it means even less because you couldn't knock him down or get him to feel the effects of 1 punch or 1 forearm. You had to give him 5, and it still didn't work. So Jeff understood that. Jeff understood selling, and Jeff understood I think eventually he understood I'm not going out there to try and bury you. I mean, really, that's not my goal here. My goal is to go out and have great matches with whoever I'm in the ring with. And you can't do that with everybody. But with Jeff, you could. And it was really, really cool. So every time I had the opportunity, man, I didn't pitch a lot of ideas, but I pitched ideas for a dog collar match with Jeff and me in Texas. And I'll never forget, I went to Eric and said, well, what do you want to do in this? He goes, hell, I don't know. You guys came up with the idea. You figure it out. So we did and put the baby face over. Or we might have got heat. I don't remember what we did on the finish, actually. But Jeff held his own. Jeff was more than capable. And he went through some hard times, too. It wasn't always easy for him.
You guys had a bunch of matches, tens, and matches in USWA, and I had a big long feud there. Did you draw a lot of money? Were you guys doing well at that point? What was the financial end?
No. This was a time where it was in the beginning of the 90s, so I turned 30, I guess in 1990 or 89, whatever it was. And this was when I started believing, look, all I wanted was a small guarantee. I don't want a whole lot, just something that I know I'm going to get every week, because otherwise it wasn't happening. And my case was, I'm working with Jeff. We're in a top spot from either last on the card or second to last on the card.
Yeah, the heavyweight title, Southern heavyweight title.
Exactly. And everybody knows that I think that being the heavyweight, the Southern champion or the Continental champion, I think that plus $15 could get me a Starbucks. But it didn't matter. It was all perception. And at least if you went and asked, if you didn't ask, you never know. So I went and laid out my case for Jerry Jarrett, and we were doing steady business. We certainly weren't doing stellar business, but the Texas versus Tennessee angle was not bad. And again, the Moondogs came in at one time, and they popped the territory. It was a hot shot angle. And Jeff actually was supposed to work with Lawler against the Moondogs in the main event. After the first week, Jeff said, man, I hurt my back. So Lawler asked me if I wanted to be in the match with the Moondogs, which, of course. And I'll never forget Larry Latham, Moondog Spot, told me in the back in Louisville, Lawler said, make sure you lay him in. And Larry looked at me and says, oh, I know he will. Because I laid it in really, really hard on him in Louisville. You know, the Moondogs just go out and beat the living hell out of you with the chair. Didn't care because everybody else was afraid to hit him. But I hit him just as hard as they hit me. One time on TV, they busted the back of my head open, man, after I just had a horrible match the night before, and I was hurting really bad on Friday night. And they hit me in the back of the head anyway and split me wide open. But that was just part of it. You know, Jeff didn't want to do it. I'd do it. Didn't matter. He probably did have a hurt back and didn't want to aggravate it anymore. There's no need to. But at this stage of the game, I was just saying, let's do it.
Those crazy Moondogs.
Those crazy Moondogs. Yes.
Bastards.
Well, it wasn't necessarily reckless. I think it had to do with a lot of that Tennessee insight about the crazy people that come down from the hills and wear the jeans with a rope belt and stuff like that. Those were the Moondogs. The real Moondogs, by God.
Right. Yeah. Got to watch out for them. Yeah, for sure.
There,
So
there
with,
are there are imitation moondogs out there, just so you know.
so with Jeff, was he a traveling partner of yours? Would you guys ride the roads
Yeah,
together?
yeah, we did. I switched babyface somewhere along the line, but used to ride with Jeff, Frank Morrell, Billy Travis sometimes, Dutch, Jeff, and Frank. Dutch Dutch was always a great storyteller, but so was Frank Morrell. And yeah, I did ride with Jeff a few times, more than once. We were traveling partners when I was a babyface, and it was a lot of fun too. Um, that was the days before cell phones, the days before having to call every single thing in the ring. And that was the fun part, going out there and just creating something new each night and having fun with it. And just reacting off the reactions.
Was Jeff a big party guy, big drinker?
Well, what do you classify as a big drinker? No, I think Jeff had Jeff had a few beers after the matches. Sure, we all did. Well, I say we all, a lot of us did. So Jeff enjoyed relaxing, just like we all did. I think we all enjoyed relaxing. But yeah, we had a good time. And did he have a few drinks after the matches? Sure.
Now you've been known to be a little bit of a stickler with who you ride with and travel with and
Mm.
get close to, right? So it seems like for whatever reason you took to Jeff or you both took to each other and became good friends and good riding buddies.
Jeff understood. Don't take things too seriously, man. It's all really just a work. It's small stuff. The small stuff uh, adds up to the big stuff, but in the end, really, it doesn't matter. And I think Jeff knew that all along, and he wasn't concerned. I think we're especially when we would be working, because he knew and he trusted me enough that I wasn't. I was going to be careful. I wasn't going to be doing things that would be considered dangerous or stupid for the most part. So he also he really did have a great personality. Once you got to know Jeff and you understood, growing up with Jerry Jarrett wasn't always easy. Growing up under that umbrella and all the stuff he's done in that territory, and he didn't have the best reputation as a promoter always, but at the same time, when he had guys like Jackie Fargo, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, guys like that who were in the territory, then the fabulous ones came in and popped the territory, and they were making more on gimmick money than they were getting paid by the office. So, his dad had a reputation of not really being that great of a payoff guy. But all the boys are going to say that anyway. And Jeff knew that some people weren't going to like him, but he blended in. He was a great guy. He knew how to loosen up and enjoy the business when you're on the road like that. And part of that enjoyment is in the back, having fun, talking, coming up with ideas, being creative. And Jeff was always creative, and Jeff always had something to add to the match. So that was one reason. And he was we got along. The personalities meshed. And I don't always mesh, but Jeff was a cool guy back then. He's a cool guy now too.
Yeah, it's interesting with you. I know Jimmy Del Rey, obviously, you guys didn't really connect away from the ring. In the ring, completely different story. You guys had great chemistry. But Jeff seemed to work both ways. That's kind of interesting for you. Behind the scenes and in front of the camera, you guys got along really well.
I wonder if that's a Dark Side of the Ring episode. Just
you and Jimmy
waiting
Del
to
Rey?
happen. No. Just
Jeff?
how the ones who I could manage to get along with. I wonder if that'd be mesmerizing for 30 seconds. What do you think?
I would like that. I would.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't take much for some people just to. All I want to do is watch what, Musk. Elon Musk.
Yes.
Yes.
The guy going to the space or whatever?
That's all I want to see. I want to see when he puts a city up on Mars, if it's hospitable. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, sure it is. For humans, and I want to be up there before I'm 80.
All right.
See if I can live with anybody on the moon or on
That's not a
Mars.
bad idea.
Yeah, see if I can live with anybody on Mars. I made it here on Earth so far. I rode with Jeff for a while.
With Jeff, I know you guys had great chemistry. You were saying on screen, off screen. Were you ever surprised at his success after USWA? Like, obviously, he goes to WWF, multiple time Intercontinental Champion, WCW main eventer, World Champion. Then he goes to TNA. Obviously, it's his own promotion, but he becomes the NWA Champion. Were you ever surprised at the success of Jeff?
No, I wasn't surprised at the success. More so than I was surprised. But I can't even say I was surprised. It's just I respected his movements and mannerisms in the business. That you have to understand that this is a relationship business. If you're going to be the world champion, you better have the person who books and controls the world champion like you, and you better have them. They better be aware of you, and it's up to you to make them aware. So Vince Russo was in WCW, good friends with Jeff. A lot of Southern leftover promoters and people who still understood that the world championship meant something to some people. And Jeff, by all means, he always looked the part. I've heard the argument he wasn't. And all these years, but I'm looking at all the other factors involved. Is he somebody you can rely on to be there? Is he somebody you can rely on to have a hell of a match with anybody? Is he somebody that knew how to dress little things like this? Because you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, but knew how to dress the part of a world champion when you go to a town or a booking, whatever it may be. So that didn't surprise me because Jeff always looked like somebody in the business to me. Everybody has their opinion about the business and different people in it. But in my eyes, it didn't surprise me when Jeff got the world title. I thought it was well-deserved. And Jeff is a lot bigger in person than he really looks, on TV or in pictures. You don't realize how big he is till you stand next to him. So he's deceivingly bigger, and why not? Why couldn't he carry the world title? I know how he worked. I know how he locked up. I know how he his footwork in the ring, just his timing, and timing really is everything. You'll know that when you lock up with somebody, if he's going to rush, or if he understands to slow down, let it breathe. And Jeff knew all the basic elements and what he needed to do and what he shouldn't do. So at the time he got the title, I thought, yeah, hell yeah, good for him.
Now, that issue with Steve Austin back in USWA and that problem led to a cosmic or seismic shift in wrestling. If you think about it, he was supposed to get that Triple H spot, so he was supposed to be the one eventually feuding with Austin, and Austin nixed it because he hated him, hated his dad, all this other stuff. Austin said he didn't want to work with him, take Deborah away from him because he was with Deborah. I mean, all this stuff basically because Austin didn't like him. Then we get Triple H and Stephanie. So Austin doing that kind of created this big, huge problem in that sort of wrestling. But Jeff, to the point, it's like, okay, they don't see him in that spot. Well, somebody did, because he was going to be in that spot where he's not the guy, but he's the guy feuding with the guy. So he would have been feuding with Austin. He would have been feuding with The Rock. You know what I mean? He could have been in that spot.
Well, yeah, but whenever I hear stuff like that, it's like I don't know that it created any real trouble. Things happen the way they were supposed to happen.
Right.
And I know it probably could have happened earlier for Jeff, and it could have happened differently for Jeff. But the path had already been traveled, and Steve had already met Jeff, not in the best of circumstances. And in Memphis, again, when your dad owns a company, everybody else is making $40 a night, and you're driving a nice car, not really worried about too much. It rubs not. Steve wasn't the only guy it rubbed wrong, but it rubs people the wrong way. And I can understand. I really can. I can understand why. But at the same time, even the people who are always pointing and bitching understand why. They do understand the business. And if they don't, then they're complete morons. But anybody that's been around any amount of time gets it. if you're part of a family, part of a dynasty in the business, it's going to be harder, not necessarily easier, because you're going to be looked at with even more scrutiny, and you're going to be expected to do even better than everybody else. So there's a lot of weight on their shoulders too. And I think we all can have regrets. We all can look back on, well, I should have done this, I would have done that, could have, should have, would have, all that stuff. I don't think Jeff has that many regrets, if any at all. I mean, have we all done things we're not really proud of or wish wouldn't happen? Of course. But what events take place, when the curtain call happened, Hunter was the only one they could punish. Well, that was more of a statement, I think, of just saying, all right, we're going to show everybody. But in reality, Bill Watts used to fine people, then give it back to him at the end of 2 weeks. Just give them a bonus of what the fine was. So why should I imagine Vince being any different? Vince is a businessman. Vince knows who he needs to keep happy, and who his guys are, who his selected crew is. And Jeff was part of that team. But it just so happened that Steve was getting momentum, and okay, so they took it away from Hunter 1 year. And if they wouldn't have done that, well, Steve would have made it one way or another. But that was the way it was supposed to happen. Jeff, the same way. Maybe it wasn't WWE, but they gave him shots. They gave him matches, and they gave him the Intercontinental title, like you said, the tag title, and things like that, just to put him in that light and put him in the light of a champion, put him in the light of a superstar. So all the circumstances with Steve Austin or Hunter or Sean or whoever else, I truly believe it was just supposed to be the way it was, because that's where our place in the business was meant to be. So, and Jeff was meant to be the owner of TNA. He was meant to be in Impact. He was meant to be wherever else he went, and he's meant to be where he is now.
To me, I always thought he was like the perfect guy to have on your roster, because he could be the IC guy, or the European, or the tag. But I think, too, he could also be the world champion and feud that way. And then let's say you're pushing somebody else, you could put him here, and that program becomes important. And he'll get massive amount of heat on that program. You know what I mean? So I think that always with me was like, okay, he's like the perfect guy that can kind of move around the card wherever you need him, at the top or in the upper mid card or in the middle or whatever.
They used to call that the utility guy. And so, I mean, that would have been a great spot for Jeff, but in reality, he had to keep his top guy status, and I think that would be the only place. You can't keep going up and down and remain a top guy. So that's why a lot of your top guys leave before they get shuttled down the card. And I believe, and I believe Jeff is smart enough. He's seen enough, been with enough of the top guys in the business to understand when this starts happening, you need to move your little chess piece over here, and then they'll move theirs over here, and then you guys will be playing a strategic game of, no, this is really a great idea, Jeff. We're going to take the hottest girl in our company right now and replace her with a transvestite, and you're going to be so over. Yeah, Jeff would do enough to say, yeah, not tonight, guys. So yeah.
A lot of stuff with Jeff was the constant moving, but it was smart too, because I'm not going to lower my stock here. I'm going to move over here at the right time. He always seemed to move at the right time. Obviously became WCW champion multiple times over, so that move did end up helping. And then obviously he started TNA after that, after Vince publicly fired him on TV. But I don't know if you'll remember this. A match in '99 on Raw, you and Jeff lost to China and Deborah. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, this was after I was a scab referee, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Deborah and who?
China.
Okay. Yeah, I think I hit China with a guitar, right? See, now I think I remember more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah. That was just I don't remember why the scab referee even came about, the angle. or anything. I just remember somebody saying, "Hey, you want a referee?" Okay, yeah, sure. So that was it.
So I think it's just an interesting like storyline. It's like, okay, we'll just have different referees doing this and that. Do you remember why that they made you and Jeff go in that match?
I really don't. I think I might have helped. I think I might have helped Jeff win in a match or something with China. I know they were doing that, and that was. I don't think Jeff had any problem with that, and this is just my own opinion. But anytime you are wrestling in the ring with a woman, no matter if it's China or not, it just the perception of it, I don't think was what felt right. But Jeff went out and did business, and that's what you had to do. But I don't remember the circumstances. I really don't. Remember what happened with the scab referees. I just remember the referees went on strike, something like that, and then some of us became referees, and that was the storyline. So
Seemed like Jeff always did business though. Like they wanted to lose to China. Okay, I'll lose to China. Obviously, everyone knows the story, but he made sure he got his money first for
yeah,
the money that they owed him, which is very very smart on his part. But he'll do business. He'll job to it. That's no problem. I'm going to
sure.
job to Shawn Michaels. I'll job to Shawn Michaels. Sure, no problem.
By all means, everybody has a price. This is called professional wrestling. It's not called let's go out there and just fight for real and kick the living shit out of each other and see who comes out alive wrestling. No, this is professional. That means you're getting paid. And if you're getting paid, well, then pay me what service I'm doing and for how good a service I do it. And so I thought Jeff did a great job. Went out, they let his contract expire. How do you do that? I don't know. But he was going to settle it and say, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but you're going to pay me what I want you to pay me. And that's the way it worked.
That is so weird how that could happen. I know that happened recently with Aleister Black. They didn't realize his contract was up, and all of a sudden, okay, we release him, but he's under an NXT deal, so he only has a 30-day non-compete. So that's a misstep. Somebody's contract ends. The infamous one, obviously, Lex Luger is on Monday Nitro, and Vince finds out, and he's like, how the hell is this guy on Nitro? He was literally at a house show 2 days ago. Oh, his contract expired. He was working on a handshake deal. Does anybody pay attention around here? Like, how does that stuff happen? It's crazy that could happen. It seems like hopefully it wouldn't happen anymore, but it did not that long ago.
Yeah, and when you're in the mix or when you're in that the eye of the storm and you really can't see anything else and everything else around you is turning and twisting and not as calm as it is for you at that moment. And then all of a sudden you get moved out farther from the eye of the storm and you start experiencing some of those winds and monsoons and tree branches hitting you in the head. You go, whoa, wait, what? Whose contract expired? What happened? So, I mean, that is easy to understand at times, especially when you're working all day and you have to make sure everybody's on the same page. And unfortunately, everybody's human there. I know it's maybe hard to believe, but everybody's human there and they make mistakes too. And I don't think anybody's doing it on purpose, obviously, but you have to have an eye on what needs to be done. So that's business. That's life. I think that happens more than we hear about. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Jeff was smart enough to get the payout from the Gund Arena, as the story goes, and not from Vince himself, because he would probably cancel the check or whatever. So he made sure he got it from the arena, which was very, very smart.
Yeah, and Jeff has always been a smart guy. I've always liked Jeff. I've always admired his business acumen about getting his money and understanding. Hey, the same line back. It's nothing personal. It's all business. You know, you want something from me. And we talked about it. Now I want something from you. Let's talk about it. So in order to get done what needed to be done, Vince did the right thing, paid him what he asked, and moved on. So and now he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a former world champion many times over. And he's having a great life, and more power to him because he should.
So I just want to bring up this one small point about the plane ride from hell. Before we exit, I noticed with the Michael Hayes the hair getting cut, you took extra, love, and you took extra laughter in that one. I just wanted to point that out.
well, you know what? I've laughed at and with Michael many, many times, and um, there's nothing I think that you or me could say on any podcast anywhere that would shock Michael Hayes. The only reason I even brought it to the attention was I got a text from the Firebird himself, and I just wanted to clear the record and make sure that everyone knew I was an honest man. And yes, an honest man, and would go ahead and rectify any accounts or any accusations or any statements that may or may not be true in the mind of a Michael Hayes. And that's the only reason. It was not. And of course, yes, I have nothing but love, respect, and admiration for Michael too, even for his imperfections. Um, he who's never sinned cast the first stone. I'm not sure how you say that, but he without sin. Whatever it is, man, if you've never done anything wrong, go ahead. Say whatever you want to say. Just be sure. Be sure there's nothing out there that they can't find on you either, because usually those are pointing and making accusations, better check your own house, make sure it's clean. So, but Michael, yeah, I'd consider Michael a very good friend. I sure would. And when they cut off whoever, although it's been now declared that it's 1, 2, 3 kid, cut off Michael's ponytail, I had got my hair cut into a dadgum crew cut, Michael. They didn't just cut off the back of my hair. I wore a blonde crew cut. So no, man, it'll grow back, and you knew that, and it has. No worries.
Good point. The zip thing is unforgettable.
Well, no, actually, it is forgettable. Very forgettable. And I want to forget it if I never get asked about zip again. Oh my God.
Well, let's talk about your book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, and Stories to Help the Aspiring Pro Get to the Next Level. Where can they get this awesome book?
You can get this awesome book at our website, jpwrestlingacademy.com. Also on there, you can find out all the dates coming up. We have our last class of the year, 10-week fall session, October 4th through December 10th. And then we're taking off the rest of 2021, and we start back in January, early January of 2022. And I'll have all that information as we go forward. But, yeah, it's coming down to an end, coming down to a close real fast. You do realize we're getting close. We're at the end of September. Well, we're 10 days away as we speak, or 11 days, whatever. If there's 29 days in September, whatever, 29, 30. I'm not sure. I have it right here. But we have October, November, December, and we're done. After this is up, man. So nice. 30 days of September. Thank you.
Of course, you could follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. You could follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. And, of course, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com. Get a Dr. Tom shirt, or go to the JPWA store and get a JPWA store. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on? Anything good?
You know what? I have a couple things coming up in October and November. We're going to WrestleCade again this year. And I had a great time at Imagine Wrestling last week in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I want to have a big shout out. Send a big shout out to Imagine Wrestling, Mike Lettieri, Cato, and Braden, and all those guys there. They do a great job.
Good stuff there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. See you next week, folks.